Welcome to another lab in your general chemistry experience. Today, we will perform experiment number 3. In this experiment, the chemical formula for copper gluconate is determined by isolating the copper and calculating the molar ratio of copper and gluconate in the compound. First, we will measure 1.4 grams of copper gluconate. We will record this mass in your data table, table 2. Like most copper compounds, copper gluconate is blue in color. So here we are going to measure 1.4 grams of copper gluconate. Just to remind you of using the scale. So here we'll be weighing the copper gluconate in a weigh boat. So make sure when you put the weigh boat on the scale, you zero out the weight of the boat. So now you have to make sure that your scale is reading 0 before you add the copper gluconate to the weigh boat. So now we have 1.4 grams of copper gluconate. We're going to pour the copper gluconate from the weigh boat into a 250 ml glass beaker. So we're going to carefully pour all the copper gluconate. We're going to carefully pour all the copper gluconate into the 250 ml beaker. So here we're measuring 0.5% sodium chloride solution. 10 mLs of 0.5% sodium chloride solution. And we will add this to the beaker with the copper gluconate. Now I'm going to gently swirl the beaker to dissolve the copper gluconate. Now the copper gluconate is dissolving nicely, so we'll swirl it just a little bit longer. Okay, so now we are going to set up the experimental apparatus as shown in figure 5. We're setting up the ring stand. So now I'm putting the pole in the base of the stand. And then I will measure 8 inches from the base of the pole because that's where we're going to put the ring. So here I'm putting the ring 8 inches from the base of the pole. I'm going to now place the sterno under, this is the sterno, so I'm placing the sterno directly under the ring. Now before you do the next step, you are to carefully remove your glove. As you notice, your glove is not fireproof. So if you get a burn with your glove on, it would be worse than a burn without gloves. So you're to take off your glove at this point. Sternal to open the sternal, you can twist the cap off, and then you will strike a match to light your sternal. After lighting the sternal, you have to make sure that you put out the match before discarding. Place the 2 aluminum washers into the 250 ml glass beaker, and then carefully place the 250 ml beaker onto the ring of the ring stand. Now, at this point, you should never place a plastic beaker on the ring stand. And you should avoid breathing in fumes. So do not leave your beaker unattended while exposed to the sternal. Now we're going to heat the beaker for 20 minutes. And you will know that the reaction is complete in one of 2 ways. One, you can look for bubble formation. So when there are no more bubbles, you know that the reaction is complete. I am going to start a timer. So since the reaction is to be no longer than 20 minutes, I'll start a timer. So now the bubbling has stopped and it has passed 20 minutes. I will remove the beaker from the flame. So I'm going to grab the tip of the beaker and I'm going to put it on a pad. Now I'm going to extinguish the sternal by placing the cover on top of the sternal, and I will use a forceps to help me put the lid on top of the flame. So notice we need oxygen for burning, so now I've extinguished the fire. Now I'm going to pour the liquid in the 250 ml beaker into a 50 ml waste beaker. So I'm pouring off the liquid into a 50 ml waste beaker. And I've measured 30 ml of distilled water into a 100 ml beaker. So I've poured my 30 ml of distilled water into a 100 ml beaker. And then I'm going to use the forceps to carefully pick up a washer and dip it into the 30 ml of DI water. While I have While I have the washer in the water, I will determine the mass of the aluminum cup. And the mass of the aluminum cup is 2.3 grams. So I'm going to record that in table 2. So I'm recording the mass of the aluminum cup in table 2, and that is 2.3 grams. Now I'm going to place the rinse washer onto the aluminum cup. And I'm going to take the mass of the aluminum cup. I'm going to place the rinse washer onto the aluminum cup. Okay, now I'm going to hold the washer in place with the stir rod and use the forceps to scrape the copper off the washer into the aluminum cup. So I'm going to use the stir rod to hold the washer in place, and I'm going to scrape off the copper off the aluminum. I'm holding the copper in place, the washer in place with the stir rod, and I'm using the forceps to scrape off the copper. And we have to make sure we scrape off all the copper off the washer. As much of the copper off the washer. There's still some left, so I'm scraping as much as I can to make sure all the copper comes off. Okay. Now I'm going to repeat the steps for the second washer. I'm going to remove the second washer from the beaker using the forceps, and I'm going to place it in the aluminum can. And I'm going to remove as much of the copper as I can off the washer. So again, I'm going to use the stirring rod to hold the washer down while removing the copper from the surface of the washer. Okay, so now I've removed the copper from the washers, and I will discard the washers. Now I'm going to place the aluminum cup on a baking pan and put it in the oven at 115 degrees Celsius or 240 degrees Fahrenheit to dry the product. So I'm going to use this baking pan, and I'm putting the product on the pan, and I'm going to dry it. I'm going to dry it in the oven. During this time, I will monitor the aluminum cup and its content, and I will use a hot pad to carefully remove them from the oven after 15 minutes or after all the water has evaporated. So I'll set a timer for 15. The content of the aluminum cup, and now we're ready to record the mass of the cup and product in table 2. So here in the can we have copper, so this is aluminum and copper. So we're going to turn our scale on, and we're going to take the mass of the aluminum can and the content, which is copper. So the mass is now 2.6, so we are going to record that in table 2. So aluminum, cup, and copper is 2.6. Now to find the mass of copper, you're going to take the difference between the mass of aluminum, cup, and copper and aluminum. So you're going to take 2.3 from 2.6, and the mass of copper is 0.3 grams. Now we're going to take a picture of the copper. We're going to take a picture of the copper on the weigh boat and a picture of the, so we're going to take a picture of the copper on a weigh boat. So I'll put this on a weigh boat. So I'll take a picture, and you're to do the same, and you're to send it to me in your lab reports. Okay, now if after watching this video you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email, and I will answer your questions prior to you starting your lab. Thank you.